Okay. Hey guys, it's Ted. Welcome to the Ted Show. Good morning. I am very excited to have on Marion Weiler. We have been trying to get together for a while, and of course, you know my schedule, but also quarantine happened, and so it just became this crazy little world that we're in. So, Marion Weiler from Weiler International, welcome. So, I'm going to share the show. While I'm doing that, if you don't mind, give us a little background on you. I think it would be great for people to know who Marion is and where she comes from.
Yes, good morning, Ted. So excited to be part of your community and being on the show, and having the opportunity of really talking, especially now, as you said, we're all in quarantine. Seems like one Zoom meeting is hitting another, but I do appreciate the opportunity. And a lot of you probably don't know my story. And the topic today is really navigating through change and staying true to yourself. And, to give you a little bit of an idea about who I am and what that means to me, I'm originally from Germany. I was born and raised in Germany. And I was always intrigued by something different and learning other cultures and, just doing things a little bit differently, right? So that's really a stepping stone to change, right? If you want to do things differently, that means, you probably have to go through change and kind of navigate your way through. But I realized very early on that, I just did things a little bit out of the norm, I guess. I took French lessons instead of cooking, like my other friends did. I went, to high school instead of going to a corporate training. I went to to a university. I studied abroad. And so I realized like really it was like a common thread through my life that I just kind of seek to learn and to explore.
Where did that come from? Were your parents like that, or did you always have that somewhere inside of you, or did you grow up in an environment where it was encouraged to be different?
It was encouraged, but I wouldn't necessarily say that my parents were like that because they were, very much at home. They didn't travel a lot. They're very happy in their surroundings. So from that perspective, maybe I jumped a generation, I don't know. But then, the grandparents and we're talking here in Germany, right? So the luxury wasn't like really traveling and exploring a lot. That's not to say that they didn't have aspirations, but really a turning point, I think, for me was when I started traveling for tennis. So I got very involved with sports. I traveled within Europe, but everything was open. So I took it upon myself, 14, 15 years old, and I traveled around and that kind of got me even more intrigued, right? And
So
that's
you were a tennis guru.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a guru, but I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the team sport, and I was fortunate enough to have a lot of mentors throughout my life, and they were very tough on me, but I knew that they cared, and I think that kind of planted a little bit of a seed for me because really my why always was I want to be independent. I want to be able to take care of myself. I want to be strong but kind. And that's really something that I am trying to instill within my children as well. That those values are very important to me.
Kind, but what? Kind,
But strong,
but
not
strong.
a
Yeah.
push, not being a pushover, but being kind, right? And sometimes it feels that people that are successful, that are strong, it sometimes comes at the expense of being a good human being, right? And being kind.
Why do you think that is? I'm fascinated by that because I'm a believer in that. You still have to be strong, you have to know your principles, but leading with being kind is always to me the best way to do it. But a lot of people, like you just said, they either fight it or they sacrifice one for the other and don't know how to marry the
Yes.
two.
Yes. And I think that personally, in my experience, I found that perhaps it's like a sign of weakness or it's perceived as a sign of weakness, right? And that's really where I kind of found some true leaders that had that kindness embedded in their leadership and really put other people first, that were kind of beyond that. They were not falling to the illusion of knowing it all, right? They were not falling to the illusion of, I need to be the one with the answer, right? I need to be the one, if I'm leading this team, I need to be the one that actually, has all the answers and determines where we're going. But actually the goal is to find the right answer, right? And one mentor of mine said to me, people get this wrong. He said, you have to find people that are better than you, right? Because if you have a team and every single one is better than you at something, imagine how powerful this team is, right? Versus like you are trying to keep people down and you're hiring somebody where you still feel you are better than them, right? Or more qualified or whatnot, to kind of keep yourself in that authority. And that's really, to me,
I
where
think it's so important.
what's that?
I think you're right. That's so important. What a great point. I think people, whenever like, I surround myself with people that know much more than I do about the things that I need to know more about. And so I'm
Yeah.
basically setting myself up so that we all have this wonderful contribution. And then I get to do what I do best. They get to do what they do best. But
Yeah.
collaboratively, we are so much more powerful than if I just took the approach of, well, I want everybody to be not as smart as me or good as me. That's the worst possible thing you can do. I agree 100%.
But it shows vulnerability, right? It shows that you don't know it all. And last time I looked, I have not met somebody that knew it all, right? So, I think we can all come to the point of humility and realize that nobody is perfect, right? So now the question is, how do you align yourself with other great people? And, to me, one of the things that I'm always looking for are people, surrounding myself with people that have a growth mentality, that want to grow personally, that want to grow professionally, and where I can learn. It's there is no destination for me. It's like you go through the process, right? And hopefully 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I'm going to be a completely different, I've done completely different things. It's not like, oh, I've made it, right? Now I've been in an executive role, I've managed teams, I managed this and I did all that. It's like, okay, what's next? What's coming next on my personal journey and my agenda, right? How can I impact others? Is this next step? How can I really get it from success to significance?
So let me ask you. I love the. I'm gonna think about that hashtag no destination. I love the no destination because in our world, it feels like a lot of businesses, so to speak, or business people, they focus on this. You have to have a very structured, very detailed 1 year plan, 5 year plan, 10 year plan, and you have to know where you're going, where you're going to be, what month. And I've never been like that. That's not who I am. And I wouldn't say it's worked perfectly, but it certainly worked effectively enough. And so I love to hear that from you. But what do you wake up? Do you have plans in your mind, or do you just say, these are the things that I want to accomplish? Let's see where it rolls.
I do have plans, and I think it is very important to have a plan, right? It's as if if you go travel, you're not just sitting in some airplane and then you get surprised where you end up, right? And that's kind of what happens with life. If you just kind of stumble upon and you have no idea where you're going, then it's very likely you're going to end up somewhere, but is that going to be the place you want to be, right? I think it's very important to have a goal and know where that end journey is going to get you, right? Whether that is in a year, in 3 years, in 5 years. But then I think what is also very important is you have to be agile as you're doing that, right? You don't know how this journey is going to look like, but you have to take step by step. And right now in the situation that we are in, so many plans that were put in place, you can basically throw out the window, right? Because everything has changed. And I think it is the ability of a leader, in my opinion, that can pivot that strategy, that can say, okay, my goal still is X, right? But now I have to go about this differently. Now I know I'm behind where I wanted to be. I have to pick it up and I have to face reality. I think that in my experience is it sounds so little, but I believe that is so difficult sometimes to really look reality in the eye, because you might not like what you find, right? You might see, and in my industry with real estate, you might see that the revenues are going down. Your source of income is just disappearing, right? Or you might think, I'm not all that into technology. How am I going to do that? And now, I'm an extroverted person. I'm sitting at home and I can't talk to people. And you can't keep telling yourself that, or you start asking yourself, okay, how can I pivot, right? How can I be of value? And I think that's where the significance versus success comes back. How can I be of value to others, right? How can I lead through this change and rise up a better version versus getting soaked and washed away by this flood of fear and anxiety, and frankly, I believe everybody has that fear and certain level of anxiety, and I believe that is a very human feeling, right? The question
It
is it a
is.
good fear or is it taking you down?
Is that where Weiler International came to be? Is this sort of like did you have this whole, as you're going through this, did your company sort of develop or morph into that as you were maneuvering through all of the changes and all of the challenges?
Yes, it did. And just kind of getting a step back here, where this really came out first was when I built my career, and I have four little daughters, 9 and younger. And when I built my career, I was building business divisions. I was doing, all the things that I always dreamed about. And I felt like, oh, I made it, right? Now I'm on the executive level. I am doing these things. And while I was doing that, I managed a family and I had great support and everything. But I always felt there is more in me. There is something that I was very much, I knew what I wanted. I knew where I wanted to be. And it's very difficult to do that in a corporate setting with many, opinions, right? So we took a chance, and that was really, for me, the point where things started changing. We moved to Germany. I was pregnant with my fourth daughter. I managed my career, my family, and we moved to Germany and took that chance, right? And I was a bit nervous because I came to the US for a reason, and I felt like I had what I wanted to do. And so we made the decision nonetheless. And when we were in Germany, I felt that, how hard can it be, right? I'm just going to continue where I left in the US. I'm going to get this job, this great job. I'm going to keep going on my career. And what I found was that I was hitting a ceiling very quickly. It was a very low ceiling for women, and particularly for women that had four little children. So I didn't really want to take that reality. I thought, I'm just going to push through this. I'm just going to make this happen somehow. And after 1.5 years, I realized, when I was sitting at one of the many interviews, and the person across the table said to me, I'm making an offer, and the offer was 40% of my last paycheck, of my last position. And I wanted to negotiate on one point, and he turned around and he said to me, dare you trying to negotiate? You should be happy that you even are offered a job, because you're a mother of four. What are you even thinking going back into a career, into work?
Oh, so they were viewing that as a blockade. They were viewing that as a negative, a
Yes.
detriment for you to be also to be able to have a career.
Yes.
That seems
And
like so 50s and 60s. Where did
it
that
is.
mentality come from?
It is, but it's embedded in the culture. And that was the point when I realized I was unhappy and I didn't fit in. I didn't even recognize myself anymore. This was not the version that I wanted for myself. But then, meanwhile, I brought the entire family over, and now the six of us, or actually seven, because we've always had an au pair living with us. It was time to face that change, right? What do we do? Do I just fold in with how things are and accept what they are, or do I make that difficult decision? And yet again, after only 1.5 years or close to 2 years, making that move back. And that's a major undertaking when you have a family and two working parents and children in school and all of that. So
Did you have dual citizenship at the time, or did you have to go back through the process again?
no, I had dual citizenship since 2010.
Awesome.
So that was in place, and the same was in place for my children. So I didn't have to deal with the citizenship, but I had to deal with figuring out how we going to make that happen, right? How do you build up a life again, home, cars, schools, work, and so I reached out to my recruiter at the time, and he knew of this executive role for a global real estate company in New York with about 1,000 agents, and he said you'd be perfect for this role. So but it had to be fast because the person before he left, and so I had to make this decision really quick and move very fast and get everybody over there. So we landed on a Friday, bought a car on Saturday, and on Monday on an air mattress, I started working. So I did that, and I realized as I was starting, the real estate market was shifting, and I think those that are watching that are in the real estate industry have experienced that for some time.
Absolutely.
But fast forward to Weiler International, was that I found myself 1.5 years into this, that my position was eliminated. And so at that point, I had to make a decision.
You're at another crossroads.
Another crossroad. So I said, and I started thinking about this Weiler International and what if I can do my own business and really have an impact and do it the Marion way, right? Right. And that was the moment after, an initial feeling of letting down my family and fear of how am I going to do that and how am I building this, right? I was coming from a corporate environment where you have people doing certain things, and now you are the social media person, and you are the strategist, and you are, the creative person. You're like
everything,
right? So, but this time around, that fear of not knowing how, or the fear of failure, that I put that to the side, and I really just focused on building this step by step and building on the mindset, right? The mindset of an entrepreneur. Somebody said yesterday, that the mindset of an entrepreneur is, you're a millionaire, you just haven't been paid. So,
right.
it's like things like that where I feel that, now that's kind of how I moved into this Weiler International. And
let me ask you something. So as I'm listening to your story, and I don't do a lot of research on the story, so I'm so impressed by all of the ups and downs and you sharing that. When you are going through, when you're thinking, you're working, you're opening a company, which in and of itself is a 3-4 person job plus, and you're doing it all, and you have 4 daughters, a family, what are you doing to stay on top of all of that? Like, are you just, I think people will say, oh, she's Superwoman, so of course she can do it. But share with them maybe something that you did along, because all I can think about was whatever she's having, I'll have. Whatever she's doing, I'd like to know a little bit about.
Yeah. And that, probably fills a whole other episode, because, what I found with me is structure really helps. Yeah. And that's really in my professional life as well as my personal life, right? If everybody knows what the expectations are, right? How do you structure your day? Like even right now, when you're looking at, we're all in quarantine, right? And people are dealing with trying to do their work and teaching their children, right, on the side, or you see them like coming in to a Zoom call or whatnot, or to a conference call. But to me, it was always important. They knew exactly what the expectations were. They have a routine, which, you know, it might sound to some people a little bit military, but they have a very clear routine, and we all need that for our own sanity. And it kind of comes back to my earlier point and my why and being strong and being kind. Like, for example, we implement like a star chart, right? It's a reward, not a punishment. So we are more on the let's have them rise up to the best version they can be versus let's punish them if they do what they, you know,
Right.
what they're not
I
supposed
love
to.
the reward. That's awesome.
And I believe even in professional life, that is my experience. People want to do a great job. They want to rise up and not disappoint you, right? If they feel that you really care and you hear them and you help them through this. And I believe that's where companies and brokerages really can come in strong, is helping their people, right? It's not just the agent, it's the employees, it's the clients, it's the vendors. It's that we are in this together. And if you really care about someone else, what that does is, and I was just writing an article about that. Why not you, right? The question usually is, why me, right? Why is this happening to me?
Right.
But it really puts you in a victim role. And to get out of that and taking charge, it's why not you, right? You are a leader. Are you going to come out of this better? Are you going to be remembered as the person that built a relationship, as a person that had understanding when your employees are home remotely, right, with their children, with this, with that? At the end of the day, of course, we all have to do our work, right? All have to show. But I found that when you really put faith in people and you show that you care, I believe in a situation as it is right now, it will come back tenfold.
It
And that's
always does, right? I mean, isn't your experience like people will say, well, you always talk about that, Ted. I talk about the same thing, but it really does come back. It comes back, maybe not in the way that you thought it would come back, maybe not in from that exact person or that exact moment or that exact plan. But
yeah.
I truly believe that you plant the seed and it comes back many, many times over back to you.
Yes. And it is also, you know, for yourself, it's so much more rewarding when you realize that you made an impact and a difference in somebody else's life, right? I think that is a feeling of fulfillment that you cannot get if you're just looking after yourself. How am I going to make sure of course, we all want to make sure that we are okay, right? And it kind of comes back to facing the reality, and that reality is different for everyone, right? But then it's not about not being afraid. It's about doing the things and changing and navigating through this despite being afraid.
Agree.
So, you know, that to me, I believe we will see some leaders that might have been under the surface before because they just haven't had a voice, right? They were there, but they had no voice, and they will come out stronger. And I also believe that perhaps some leaders that are more leading on title might lose some of the relevance. And that's really where my company is focused on, Weiler International. I am working with broker owners and executive teams and helping them not only optimize their business and their operations and the structure, right? Say they grew or whatnot, but now you have that topic of leadership. You have that topic of taking charge of what's in front of you. What's the reality you're dealing with? How can you take inventory of what's happening? Because that clarity will be the first step to get you to that next step of, okay, now what am I going to do about this, right?
Correct.
It's kind of like my personal story. It's, this is not working, right? Inventory, it's not working. I'm not happy. This is not what I'm meant to do. So now what can I do to change it?
Well, I
Right?
think people have been in the beginning. People were paralyzed. They felt they didn't know how to maneuver through. because we weren't sure how long it would be. And now that people have grown accustomed, I love what you said earlier about, and as accustomed as we can be, I love what you said earlier about leadership, because I have seen people emerge as leaders, emerge as people who have a very big voice that were kind of under the brim, under the tent there. And then I've seen leaders who have crumbled because it's a title only and they had really no leadership skills per se. And they certainly didn't have any relationship skills, which is critical. And
Yeah.
I see them crumbling. And what's happening is you're seeing all of this positive come out of it. Probably not for the leaders who are crumbling, but
Yes.
for the people under them, maybe that were
Yeah.
suffering, or the teams or the companies, because I think we need to. The shift, I look at the shift in a very positive way, like you do. I feel like there's so much
Yeah.
opportunity here, and we have such a great time to really get introspective and really think through. And some of the cool ideas that we have, some of the things we've wanted to do, that we should be working on those things instead of
Yeah.
watching Netflix till the
Yes.
24/7. Nothing against Netflix, but it's just to me such a positive. There can be so much positive in here, and you
Yeah.
certainly represent that. All right, so we're gonna have to come back for a part two.
Yes.
But I want to ask what I ask every guest this: what are you doing aside from work, aside from family? You can include family, but what are you doing personally to stay creative, to stay positive? Some people have said meditation, prayer, yoga. What is Marion doing?
So, what I found is that really you have to take care of yourself in order to take care of someone else. To come back to that airplane, right? Before you help somebody else, you have to help yourself. And that to me is really a routine of meditation, yoga, walking, getting fresh air, and exercise, of course, by myself. But that to me, it kind of sets the stage for the day. And I am I'm trying not to overwhelm myself with, oh, now I have all this time, right? I can do this, and this, but really focus in what moves the needle. Like, how can I grow? How can I take this time and learn, right? There are amazing, like I'm doing a Rise Up challenge right now. That's a 20-day challenge where you can learn from incredible speakers that will be thousands of dollars if under different circumstances. So I'm taken advantage of those things, and I'm trying to work on a better version of myself, and there are a lot of little bits and pieces that I can implement into my business, and so that's really what I am doing. And I have to say, that taking that step back and a little bit less busy and crazy, and it feels more content to me personally. And I believe there is a silver lining, as is in everything, right? Nothing ever comes easy, but there is a silver lining. And to me, I have more time to spend closer to my family and really take my business to the next level. So that's what it is for me, really.
I love it. I want to say truthfully, what a powerful show. What powerful words of wisdom you shared today. I never know what's going to happen when somebody comes live. You and I have met once, maybe twice at the Citrus Club, I think. And so, when somebody comes on, if they have the desire to come on, of course I want them to. And if I'm intrigued by them, which I was by you, I'm like, yeah, you got to come on and tell your story. But I want to give you kudos. I think a lot of people should really watch this. I hope they do, because you gave a lot of powerful information, and I appreciate you sharing your journey and
I'm
your
happy
story. All right,
to.
Marion Weiler with Weiler International, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for sharing all of your words of wisdom. I really appreciate
Thank you, Ted. I just want to finish saying I am available for complimentary consultation. So if anybody would like to jump on a call and discuss what it is, that you're struggling with, I'd be happy to.
it.
Thank you,
Fantastic.
Ted, for having me.
Thank you so much. That was excellent. All right, y'all have a good one.
Wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.